All right, gentlemen. We've answered the call. We've gotten enough texts. We've gotten enough emails. We've got enough faxes. You've been in our ears for probably 10, 15 weeks now. Ty and I apologize, but we're back with another episode of the Huddle House. We took a little season off. Wedding, relationships. We've been busy. And let's be frank, Ty, we haven't had a whole lot to play for other than Ashton Genty and and maybe another. Well, I'm not going to disclose my secrets, but other potential rookies. But how's it going, guys?
Doing great, man. Doing great. Been missing this. I was firing it up, and I realized just how much I missed it. And sorry we haven't been doing it more often, but we can finish out strong here and get some content. And it's a big week in the league, last of the regular season, and there's really one spot kind of still to be determined, one or two spots in the playoffs, and we have one of the men who'll be competing for it here on the call with us, Jake Clark. How are you feeling, sir? Why don't you say hello to everybody? Tell us about yourself.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I don't know, it's a big week here. Feeling real nervous. I think a couple of my fellow competitors for that last playoff spot, they're really putting the pressure on me, and I think the biggest thing is, they want to call me out, they want to call my name, and that's fine. All the doubters can doubt. We'll see what happens this week.
So if you had a message to your team or to the league this week, what would it be, Jake?
I would just say, don't be surprised because, everybody counted me out last week, and a miracle happened. I'm looking for a Christmas miracle again, and see if I can find my way into the playoffs.
So now you told us before we were recording that you didn't even watch that Monday night game. So tell me, like, are you just that ice cool with it all that like your head was in the guillotine, but you didn't care? You were just gonna go to sleep and wake up to see if you won or lost?
Well, I that was the main thing. I didn't pay attention to like my phone. Like I didn't care about the fantasy score. Like I had the game on, but like I wasn't paying attention to what was really like the score or anything like that until like people brought it up to me and like started texting and shooting stuff. But no, like everybody in the chat was blowing up. Nah, like I didn't even look at that. Like I think it was a text from like Marcus or something. He's like, "This lucky son of a gun is gonna pull this off." And I was like, just ignoring everything. I was like, just don't respond. Just let's see what happens. And then, yeah, the craziness. And I
So
woke up and I saw Caleb and you going at it, and I was like, whoa.
so when Nick Chubb caught the touchdown pass, did you see that happen live?
I did see that happen. I
And,
was
okay,
just
you
like,
had to feel good when that
well, I gave like a little fist, and then just like I was like, all right,
happened.
I,
Well,
I
Ty
don't know
tried.
if it's gonna happen.
Yeah, Ty tried to jinx you. He tried to get revenge
That
for
was
all
the
the years of terror you rained on him, Jake.
it
He
was
tried to get you back a little. He was like, "Jake, you won," and it's like, dude, there's 8 minutes left. You're
Yeah,
down to six
I
point
did
passing touchdowns. If Bo Nix throws one, you're cooked.
it was an oversight. I didn't realize you were facing Bo Nix as well. I just knew you had Chubb and were down. So I deleted the message out of respect to be the big man and handle
well,
business the right way.
well, Caleb was the one that did the reversal. He was the one saying that Jordan had already won and that my season was over. So, I mean, you both were going for it, but it didn't matter at that point. I mean, I saw him catch the touchdown. I was like, by some miracle, because the whole time I was watching the game, I was just like, oh, please throw an interception, Bo Nix. Please throw an interception.
Uh,
And they're like up, and he just chucks a deep bomb down the field. And I'm like, hallelujah. Denzel Ward picks the ball off. I was like, so you're telling me there's a chance? And then that touchdown from Chubb, and I was just like, there's no way. You can't write this up. So
yeah.
hopefully this week things kind of aren't as close. But again, I see it being very tough and an uphill battle for me.
Yeah,
So
well, I've got some bad news for you, real quick, Jake. I'll let you get to what you were saying in a second, Ty. Got some bad news. You're playing Carter, who's a pretty good team. Currently three seed in the playoffs. Jeremy's playing me, so he's got one win. already basically in the bag. So
Yeah, this is such an interesting situation here because I was going to lay out the stakes of this, where pretty much what's still up for grabs is the 5, 6, and 7 seed. Really that 6 seed, excuse me, and that's obviously between you and Jeremy right now. Now you have 100 points on enforced, so if you guys if you both beat the median and win the game, you're in. But this is where it gets tricky because say you win the matchup and don't break the median, and he wins the matchup and breaks the median, then he gets in over you. So it's all just very much up in the air. This is like the first time I feel like that nuance of us having the median really is gonna be a big swing in the outcome of a matchup. Because if it was just you just needed to win, you'd be in a much more powerful position, I would say. Um,
mhm.
so it's, I mean, how do you feel with all that being said? Like, does that add extra pressure to it? Or, I mean, there's nothing you can really do, obviously, but just to how you feel about it.
Uh, I mean, ultimately, when I looked back at it and stuff, looking at my team, I mean, with the new media and stuff, it has had a little bit of a benefit. But looking at my record outside of winning last week, I mean, I had gone 0 and 6 the last 3 weeks before then. So that's kind of the main thing I thought is like if I just would have had one median win, I had like two matchups. I think I had one with Brandon, and I think it may have been Lucas. Like my games were lower scoring and pretty close, and I missed the median by like a few points. And so that's where I think it would have benefited is if I would have just had a few more points, on those weeks, even when I lost, it's an automatic I'm in. I don't even have to worry about Jeremy. But with this whole factor, I mean, that's why Caleb's up a game on Jeremy and I, is because of the median.
Yeah,
So
interesting. Now, if we were just looking at projections right now, you're projected 104 and Jeremy's projected 112. Obviously, that's just conjecture and still remains to be seen. But yeah, with him going against Matt, that definitely does seem like he's going to get a win there. So, like, it could, and if that's the case, like, say he wins and doesn't break the median, all you have to do is just break the median. You could still lose the game. So, there's
Mhm.
flexibility there. But yeah, this is going to be really interesting to watch, see how it plays out.
I think it would be more entertaining for the league if it came down to the median versus it just coming down to like if Jeremy and I both win and then it's just based off the point differential, which he would have to score a lot of points. So I don't know. I'm really hoping Matt just somehow has a couple weeks like you've had lately, Ty, with your team where they've just exploded for over 100 and something points, and
Yeah,
just by some miracle Matt pulls something off.
I would.
Brother, I'm starting Ricky Pearsall and Josh Reynolds. I don't think.
Now there is a way, right? There is a miracle way where the other factor is you got to think, Caleb, it's very slim for it to happen, but if Jeremy and I both go 2 and 0 and Caleb goes 0 and 2 this week, Caleb could technically be out. And he has James this week. So if his team doesn't show up, he could get knocked out, but
That's
he's
true.
been putting up a lot of points.
Yeah, I'm looking at this actually right now, Matt. I'm pretty sure you're starting Josh Reynolds, who got cut today from the Broncos. I don't even think he's on a team.
I'll fix that. I'll fix that. I just don't, dude. Everybody that's like on my bench that I could play is on bye,
Yeah,
so like
it's bad.
my roster's pretty thin.
It's really bad for buys this week. Um,
Yeah,
I'll pick somebody up on waivers.
I'm dying. I mean, I think it was a text conversation with James and Marcus, and James was like, just no excuses, no this and that. And I'm like, you have to understand, Derrick Henry is like a pivotal player on my team. I was like,
yeah,
sorry, I don't have the luxury to have the depth your team has of like Najee Harris, James Cook, James Conner. I'm like, you have like two stud running backs, like your two studs from the 49ers go down. And I'm like, yeah, I don't have that depth on my bench to really recover
it's a
like
tough
that.
week to be without your Ravens in this like do or die game. That's really bad luck. You're all in. It looks like you're all in on the Packers receivers tomorrow with Reed and Watson. You think they're going to light up the Lions?
I mean, it's not impossible. I'm just hoping like I was thinking about it today. I was like just like a 70-yard bomb to Watson for a touchdown would do it. And then Jaden Reed, he hasn't been doing so well, but he keeps catching he caught a couple touchdowns last week. So I think if it's a back and forth game, there's a chance, but I have to. I mean, there's no one else really for me to turn to. I mean, unless I'm wanting to throw Kareem Hunt in at my flex over like a Tolbert or a Watson. I just think it's better to go with the high risk, high reward.
Yeah, I know. I concur, but he just needs to actually catch the ball. Is his problem because he had that one drop not that long ago. So yeah, I think that's kind of what everybody's watching for in the league this week is how that's all going to shake out. It's three horses jockeying for two spots, and that'll be really interesting. I think on the other end of the spectrum, what concerns Matthew and I is we have a little bit of stakes here this week for this top spot because there's a world in which I win and break the median and outscore him by 30 points. And
Chances of that are like 1%, but
yeah,
it is fantasy. I mean, you're playing Lucas.
it's
I
as
don't know how you would win.
it's as 1% as it gets because I think I've only broken 100 like twice this year, maybe three times. And like I remember
Yeah.
the week I think I was playing Caleb, I broke 100, and it was the second week in a row, and I was like this close to sending the George Bush thing on 9/11 when he's like reading the book and the guy leans down and he whispers to him, and I was gonna be like, Jimmy's have broken 100 again or something. Around.
That's funny. No,
Maybe
no, it is possible you outscore me by 30. That part is possible because I might put up like a 50 burger this week. I'm not going to lie.
yeah,
Very possible.
it's you're at 123, I'm at 86, so it's probably like 30. Yeah, it's 40. We can call it 40. I would need to outscore you by 40. So
Yeah.
I don't
It's
know.
not. You're not going to beat Lucas. That's the part that's going to hold you. And I mean, you're not going to break the median, but the median's at least possible. But beating Lucas,
Yeah, that's
no
tough.
shot. No
Projected
shot.
projected 134. Wow.
I'm just glad I've got two locked up though, because Mitri's now 3 games ahead of me. So even if I
Yeah.
somehow did have a great week, I still get two.
Yeah, so two is
Yeah.
secure for you. But anyway, nobody cares about this talk of
Yeah,
those losers. We can get on to
Well,
it's all we have to
number
talk
one
about
pick,
nowadays.
number one pick at stakes. It's still important.
it's important to us at least.
the
Uh yeah,
two. It's what are the odds, or the two Huddle House hosts both decided to just blow their teams up the same year?
I know. Yeah. Well, we'll see how it all shakes out, but
Yeah.
that's the outlook of the league this week. And I guess we should mention there's still some jockeying for this top seed as well in the buys because Lucas and Marcus both have the same record. Lucas has 130 more points scored, but that two seed is big because obviously if you have a bye, your opportunity to win goes up even more. I should mention Carter has the same record, 19-7. All four of them or three of them have the same record for that two seed. So, say Lucas and Marcus both go 1-1 this week and Carter goes 2-0. He would bump up into the two seed theoretically then. And similarly to Lucas, if he goes 1-1 and Marcus goes 2-0, Marcus takes that bye week. So there's obviously still a lot at stake there. James is pretty much, well, he hasn't exactly locked up the one seed because if he loses both and then Lucas wins both, he would take the one seed. But feels like James is probably safe for that one seed. So it's just a lot to play out here in the rankings and see where things will land. I guess like if we had to make our predictions for who gets in, do you want to do that?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, we don't have to do all the seeding, I guess. Four teams have clinched. I guess we should just talk about these three teams and who we think's in and who we think's out between Caleb, Jake, and Jeremy.
It's gonna sound like I'm a hater, and I really don't want to sound that way. I feel like
Yeah,
me and Jacob buried our differences aside for the most part, but I just look at Carter and the way his team's playing. I mean, granted, Carter is capable. We've seen several times this year of putting up like 70 points. Like his team's kind of how Jeremy's used to be a few years ago. He either goes ballistic or he does awful. But I just think in general, more often than not, Carter's team does really well. Also, just Jake having Zay and Henry on bye, just really difficult. Jake, I think you can definitely get over the median, but I'm just worried you're going to not be able to go 2-0 with just the way Carter's team's playing. Whereas I feel like Jeremy, on the other hand, he's got one win locked up, so all he's worried about is just the median. And I mean, he's got decent matchups. I'm just thinking pretty good chance he can get there. So I'm going to take Caleb and Jeremy
Mm.
first.
Yeah, I think if I'm looking at it, I definitely feel like Caleb's probably safe just because the chances of him losing both his and you and Jeremy winning both yours seems slimmer to me than anything. I think what I will predict is that I think Jeremy will break the median, but I think he's going to lose his matchup. And I think Jake, you might win your matchup, but you won't break the median. So my prediction is that you'll maintain that last spot.
But
Just
you have me beating Jeremy?
I have Jeremy not breaking the median.
No,
Oh,
you
you
just
you,
the
you just said that
opposite. You
wrong.
just picked Matt to
You
win.
said the opposite. I was like, Ty, are you tripping?
Upset of the century. I meant
Yeah.
I meant that backwards. Yeah, I said that wrong. So I have Jeremy breaking the median, or wow, I did it again. I have Jeremy winning, not breaking the median, and I have Jake losing but breaking the median. And I think that by virtue of the points scored, Jake would get that sixth spot.
Okay.
That's it. Yeah, I mean that I didn't think about that possibility, like thinking of it that way. But again, that's why I think implementing that rule of the median is just so crucial, is that it is you're watching your opponents now, so you're versing everybody. It's not just you're playing your matchup. So uh I
It's
like
been
that
good for the
idea.
league. I really like it. I think it's been really healthy for the league.
I personally haven't enjoyed it because I don't like seeing 23 losses on my record, but like I see the benefit of it in this instance for sure. And as it's come down the stretch here, it definitely adds a lot more nuance to these later stage matchups. So yeah, I think there's benefit to it.
Yeah.
And
I
you can
mean,
always just go. You can always just click on your schedule too, just to like see like what your like win loss record is in terms of just the matchups. I still look at that for me just to see like how many games I've actually won versus how many were just the median. But
I've not done that. What about you, Jake? We didn't hear your prediction.
uh, my predictions, I mean, you sound a lot more optimistic, Ty, than I have. I mean, going back to last week, I just haven't been too optimistic. So I'm gonna still roll with Jeremy and Caleb getting in and just, the power scrubs doing the power scrub thing and just somehow folding at the end of the season. I mean, even in the inaugural season when I made the playoffs and had to buy, my team choked.
Uh,
So this is the second time around we have a high stakes game. And I think last year, even though I didn't have stakes, I think Brandon had stakes in making the playoffs and I knocked him out. And so he didn't have a chance for a third title reign. So I think that when there's less at stake, my team tends to show up.
uh,
But like the second season after the first one, I had to have like a big win and gain like a bunch of points for, and then I just ended up tied with everybody and ended up like down in the pooper at like ninth or something like down there. So again, I think seventh, the Marcus McCleary or Ty Shad special,
yeah.
for me in seventh place sounds like a very good possibility.
Yeah, I think this will be the first year I'm not seventh, or I don't remember if I was seventh or eighth, but I've always been like right on the Mendoza line there, and just on the wrong end of it every time it seems like. So me and Chris are the only ones who haven't made the playoffs. So that's
And Chris had a good week. He had a good week.
yeah, but he looks like he's out. I mean, he would need some serious help. I don't think no, he couldn't make it. I think he's eliminated.
yeah, he's eliminated. I'm
Yeah.
convinced that Chris could have a team of Lamar Jackson, Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, Christian McCaffrey, or Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley, and he would still lose to Jordan. I'm honestly just convinced that he would find a way to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory against Jordan.
I mean, he's got good players. He does have
Yeah,
good players. It was a tough down year for Sam Laporta. He just kind of like fell off the face of the earth in that Lions offense, and I think that's been hurting him.
Brock Bowers better not next year.
Yeah, Brock Bowers looks unreal.
The only bright spot I've had.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He's the only player on my team I actually track the performance of on a week to week basis.
yeah.
Could care less about the rest of them.
He's a stud. He's a stud. But Jake, let's just talk. Let's talk like worst case scenario here since we have you on the call. Say you don't make the playoffs. Where's your headspace at? What are you thinking in that moment?
My headspace is this season was a complete fail, like flop. Because like I feel like on the beach when we made that trade, and I
Yeah,
went all in for Derrick Henry. I was just like, this is it. This is the move. This is going to help me have the depth I need at running back. I was in the headspace that maybe Javante would actually look like his old self,
sure.
and that did not happen. I traded a first round pick, like a late first, to get Christian Watson and Zamir White, thinking that was RB depth and another startable wide receiver. Didn't happen. So it's like a lot of moves that I made, is like these all in moves. And then even the trade with you in season was a big move
Yeah.
for me. And I do like a lot of people are criticizing me for making some of these moves, but I really think, especially the end season one, I felt like that was a very smart move, not just for this season. I just felt like going forward with Cooper Cup being a little bit older, I just thought, hey, I think Zay Flowers is going to be a lot better than guys I could draft. Like I know he's not the highest scoring receiver, but we've seen flashes of him having really big games. So I was like, that's a move I think that is good for my future. And I still have like the draft picks because like I feel like that second and third round range, it's been pretty volatile, but I feel like I've drafted well. So my outlook going forward is like, okay, I have two third round picks, one of them being Matt's. I'm like, that's an early third. So I like that. But going forward, I'm going to be looking to see this offseason. If worst case scenario, I miss the playoffs, I can look to make some trades and see if I can shake my team up.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think the Derrick Henry trade. I mean, dude, that definitely like he hit. Like he's been unreal this year. So like that definitely is. I mean, I think it's a big reason why you're in the position that you're in to make the playoffs. I guess like if you had to say, I know you mentioned a lot of the depth being where things went wrong, but do you feel like Cooper Cup's been like a little? I think injuries have also hit you with Cooper Cup and like Nick Chubb's been out, and do you feel like that's affected you as well?
Uh, I mean, I traded for Nick Chubb just because I knew like Kareem Hunt wasn't gonna be starting anymore. So I felt like trading for him, knowing he was coming off injury, I was like, it's a gamble, but I know he gets touches. So I was like, okay, at least I can guarantee I know I'm getting a guy on my team that's gonna get like 10 touches a game and put up flex numbers at least. Cooper Cup, I mean, you maybe you jinxed me a little bit. Just man, this guy's incredible. Puka's hurt. Like he looks like he's gonna be the real deal, and then he gets hurt right after, and he's out like a big chunk of the season. And it was a tough stretch without him. And then like last week, again, I win comfortably if he has any sort of good week, and he just put up like a terrible week. So I don't know. It's been a very up and down year for the Rams, I think, and the 49ers. Like I think even Brock Purdy's kind of not been he's had great weeks, but then he's had just so-so weeks. So like makes me think, oh man, like this past week I was like with the weather and snow, I'm like, I actually have to start Drake May. And it's not like a no-brainer for me to start Brock Purdy now.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, they're
that's
having
where I'm at.
such an unlucky year. But you do bring up a good point with those like late round gems. I mean, you've definitely hit on several of those. Like you talk about Kyron Williams, and then you drafted Brian Robinson too
You
before you
also he also drafted Jaden Reed, who's
Jaden
been pretty good.
second round pick. Like, who am I missing here? Drake
Drake May looked pretty good.
Drake May, you picked up, yeah. I think like yeah, you have done a pretty good job at hitting on those guys. I mean, Kyron was a massive hit. What was he like a third round pick?
Here's a yeah, 302.
302. Like, geez, that's really nice. So you have been
Yeah,
able.
you for holding on to him during the decent bit of time where he wasn't doing anything. Because it wasn't like he started getting crazy workload like immediately.
Yeah.
I was, I think he's had him sitting on your taxi for a bit.
That's the goal this year. I mean, that's what I've done with Estime. I've left him on the bench. He's another one of those Notre Dame backs. So I'm kind of hoping somehow, some way, he's gotten some playing time this year, but I'm hoping if Javante finds a new home, he actually gets some run with Sean Payton because that Denver offense, I mean, they've looked really good. And I mean, guys like Cortland Sutton are relevant again. He's not playing like Dick Snot like he was for Marcus's team. So ever since he got on James's roster, he's been pretty good. So it's just seeing the offenses develop, especially with a lot of the roster moves and stuff that's gone on in the league. Because Saquon's been a huge star, and then Derrick Henry, and then you see some of these rookie quarterbacks like Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels just shine, and it brings the best out of the rest of their teams, and those players are fantasy relevant. Even Jameis getting a run with the Browns, I mean, all those players, their values have just spiked up.
Yeah, definitely. Um, and we shift the topic of conversation here, and let's look at some of these teams who are out of the race. Like if we were looking at Chris, Austin, Jordan, Brandon, Mitri, Matt, and myself, who would we say who would be our vote for? I guess like who's had the most disappointing year? Things haven't gone their way. Does anybody have a answer to that question? Something else we could talk about?
I mean, it's a good topic. I think Brandon blew his team up fairly early. Jordan, I don't think ever had the expectation of being super good. And neither did you or Mitri. So I would probably say, to me, it's between either Austin or Chris.
Yeah.
I know Chris has made a lot of moves as well to try to get some, winning players on his team and make a run for the playoffs. I'm sure he's pretty disappointed not getting there. But I would honestly say Austin, to be honest, just because Austin, his team either does majorly underperforms or they're like a top 2 or 3 team in the league. Like his team hasn't changed a whole lot. He still has Amon Ra. He still has Montgomery. He still has Puka. Like
Yeah.
he's got his core intact, and that core in the past has gotten him to the championship before, And so for him to, go from that level of success, not really do anything drastically different to make himself worse, and then even have the emergence of JSN this year as well, on top of all of that, to really round out that receiving trio and still be, a guy with a losing record, like it's just a little confusing. Just because to me, in terms of on paper, I still think he has a playoff roster.
I mean, he did do that massive trade where he sent Keenan, Kamara, and Najee Harris earlier this year.
That is true. That
I
that
think
that wounded him a little bit.
he leaned into blowing it up when he did that trade. I kind of feel like he definitely went and was moved. I mean, he got a first round pick in that deal, a second round pick. Looks like he did give up a first, second, and third in that deal, though.
It was an odd move for him. I didn't really fully understand it. I mean, I understand he wanted to get younger, but I just don't know why you throw in a first round of your own. Granted, I think he's moving up in that round, but still,
Yeah,
uh, it was perplexing a little bit. I just
yeah.
think he wanted Bub Means, the Saint guy, on his team.
Gave up Chris's first, and he got his own back. I think is that right? Or no, he is that what he got? He got his own back. It looks
Well,
like.
in that case, he only moved up one spot.
Which maybe that's how it's played out. He's definitely won some games down the stretch to keep. I'm like, I think that's his team started off like, I mean, when that year started off, like Puka was down immediately. Herbert was playing injured. Andrews started really slow. Like he had just a slow start out of the gate, and then I think he sold some of those pieces to try and just like go worse and get his pick back.
Mhm.
But then his players like returned to form and have like drug him up to this middle ground when he probably would be closer to us if it hadn't have happened.
Yeah. There was a period where he was in that conversation with me and Mitri for kind of like the number 2 pick. Like I was pretty confident you were going to get number 1, but I was threatened by him a little bit. Like, oh
Yeah.
gosh, Austin's right around this spot with us, and he's just rattled off some wins late in the season that he probably didn't even want
Probably.
to kind of put him in that purgatory realm.
I
But
do feel like he's in a strong position though, because he has a really solid core and he has 2 first round picks this year, 2 seconds, and 3 seconds next year as well to go with it. So he's got some good capital to build on. We know he's very steady manager. Yeah, I think he's a pretty good case for most disappointing. I think Chris is also a pretty strong case. I mean, he shipped away a couple first round picks. He doesn't have a 26 first or a 27. And he only has James's first this year, so he really has gone all in. I think he gave up a good bit to get ETN, gave up Najee and a first. They did a pick swap. They did a pick swap of first
at
there.
this point, I'd rather have Najee than ETN straight up by a pretty
Yeah,
decent margin.
Yeah,
by far.
ETN's lost some value this year.
Yeah.
he got a great year out of Joe Mixon, and that looks like a guy that he'll be able to have. So I think that was what he sent his 27 first away for, was for Mixon and Pitts pretty much. So I mean, that's probably even, I would say. Uh,
Traded back for his boy Kyle Pitts.
yeah,
I thought once he got him off his team, he would be dead to him.
yeah, that's right. That's right. He did get rid of him.
It'd be like I feel like if I traded back for QJ or something, like a guy that's hurt you. Like Chris hated Pitts for like a while because he was just underperforming every single season, and he breaks up with them, and they got back together.
They did. They found each other again. And he's getting a little bit of a career revitalization from Russell Wilson, it looks like. Whereas CJ Stroud's been having a sophomore slump. Like, that's been a little weird. But, I mean, I think his team still has players on it. McConkey's looking good. Evans has been banged up. And Chuba Hubbard just got a 4-year deal. Like, he could be, viable for the next little bit. So,
You probably didn't like seeing that, did you, Ty?
I mean, nothing you can do about it. I still think Brooks is probably more talented. They just need to see him on the field. They haven't seen him on the field yet.
Yeah,
But no,
I agree.
I love seeing the
Yeah.
guy extended for 4 years. I think his contract is going to be. He's contracted on the team now longer than Brooks even is. So like that's not it's not great, but is what it is.
He's had himself a year, and I don't really understand it because every other year he's been atrocious. He just kind of,
He's just getting volume to death. He's just getting the ball every time. Like they've really not ran anybody else, and he's been their only offense. Bryce Young's finally starting to play better, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, the Panthers have surprised me lately. I mean, think of James. James has Bryce Young as taxi squad, and like his value at the beginning of the year just plummeted to nothing. And like now, I mean, if I'm James in this position with a player like that, or I'm even thinking like an Austin, you got Anthony Richardson who got benched this year. I mean, these guys got benched and now they're starting and they're actually looking pretty good again. Like you thought these guys, their value was done, and now like going into the off season, those guys are actually going to have some value, I think.
yeah, it looks that way. So I think this has been a fun episode. Maybe we'll get on here and do a playoff primer or something once this is all shook out and we can dive more into matchups and everything like that. But I think this is pretty good to set the table for what's at stake this week, don't you?
yeah, I feel good about it. We'll talk. We'll try to get an episode going next week if we can, since it is the playoffs. But I don't want to make any promises and get people showing up at my door with pitchforks or something if it doesn't happen. So don't kill me, but we'll try to make it happen for you guys.
Yeah, so I guess we'll just say best of luck to you, Mr. Jake Clark. Don't stop believing, as you
Yep, don't stop believing.
oh. But yeah, I think we'll call this one good, and hopefully we'll talk to you next week with some more playoff previews. But best of luck to everybody this week. Let's finish another season strong. It's been a good one.
Peace. See you guys.
Take care.